Hello, guys. I haven't done a 2024 Senate prediction this month, so we're going to get started with that. So let's just start with the safe red states: Wyoming, Nebraska, Missouri. Honestly, I think Josh Hawley is kind of a lock to win, but we could see a semi competitive race because in 2022, the Missouri Senate race was oddly a bit competitive. It was only a 12% victory for Republicans, but I think Hawley will win by over 10%. But keep an eye on this state. It'll be interesting. Let's see some polls out of it, but for now, it's safe red still, just the baseline rating. Mississippi could get competitive, but honestly, I don't really see it happening. I don't think it'll be likely red. Indiana is just safe state, even though the Republican senator is retiring here. Only way the Indiana Republicans mess it up is if they nominate someone like Richard Murdoch, who was just a super far Republican. But honestly, even Richard Murdoch would probably at least win the state by a likely margin at this point. So I'm putting it safe red. I think that's done with the safe red states. Yeah, there's a lot of Democratic held states on here: Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New York. Angus King has indicated he is, in fact, running for re election, so it's a safe Democratic state or independent state. They pretty much caucus Democrats, and they're pretty much Democrats: Bernie Sanders and Angus King. Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar has an extremely high approval rating. She'll easily win the state of Minnesota by over 10%. North Dakota, safe red state. Oh yeah, New Jersey. I moved this from likely to solid Democratic, just because even though Bob Menendez has a ton of scandals, I just don't think there's any really strong Republican that could run here. Jack Ciattarelli is going to run for governor of New Jersey instead of senator. If he runs, he could make it likely, but I highly doubt it. Republicans don't really have a strong bench in this state, but Bob Menendez is still able to win in 2018 by an over 10% margin, so I think he'll pull it off another landslide win again. The state of Pennsylvania, Bob Casey, it's going to be very hard for Republicans to even keep this into the likely column. It's possible he wins by over 10% even. I'm only saying it's going to be kept likely because on the down ballot effect, the Republican candidate will be at least be able to keep their Senate candidate from losing by over 10%. But Bob Casey wins here by 9%, in my opinion. In Utah, Mitt Romney is probably going to win the Republican primary here. Utah Republican primary poll showed that even Trump was in third place in the state for the 2024 primary. So I think Mitt Romney will easily win the primary here and just win by a landslide over 15%. Definitely over 10% for a safe red state. California, Washington, Hawaii. I guess we could start with the more safer states. Virginia, honestly, I don't think Glenn Youngkin's going to run. I don't think he wants to stop being governor of Virginia. His term doesn't expire till I think it's pretty sure like 2026 of January. I'm not sure when they swear a new Virginia governor in, but either 2025 of December or 2026 of January. But I don't think he's going to stop being governor here. I think he enjoys the job. And I also think that if he did try to run for Senate, at best he could make it lean, like only a 4.5% Tim Kaine victory. But even then, I think the most likely scenario is he still loses by a likely margin. I think states that are traditionally Democratic or Republican that have a popular governor of either party, whenever they run for Senate, they don't really do that well. We saw that with Steve Daines in the 2020 Montana Senate election with Steve Bullock, a popular Democratic governor. He ran against him and lost by 10 points. So honestly, I don't think that popular governor effect is enough to affect national level Senate politics. All right, let's head to Michigan. Again, I don't think the Republicans will really have a strong candidate here. They really have a John James to run, and Tudor Dixon just kind of sucks. So I don't see the Democratic incumbent losing in this state. Plus, she frequently wins by very large margins and likely to save Democratic margin, basically. So I just don't really see her losing. Plus, the Republican Party of Michigan is just getting demolished every election. So I don't think Republicans can put resources in that state anymore. We could start with Florida. Honestly, Rick Scott, even though he's super unpopular, I just don't see him losing or winning by a lean margin. I see it by a likely margin, mainly because I think Trump will win the state of Florida by like 7 to 8, and DeSantis would win it by over 10, and he'll just drag Rick Scott over that 5% likely threshold. So, unless there's insane amounts of ticket splitting, then it could go to lean, but I don't see it. I think it's only going to be a likely margin. Even though Rick Scott's favorables are not that good, he'll still win here. The state of Texas, Ted Cruz is very low on favorables, just kind of always. So I think the Democrats are going to run someone else besides Beto O'Rourke this time. They're going to run an actually good candidate. If they run Beto, it's a likely state. If they run anyone else that's actually like somewhat decent, they could get the state to an only 4% victory for Cruz, but he'd still be favored here. And this is their really only possible pickup for Democrats is the state of Texas. So I still think they should invest resources here. And I do think it'll be a swing state in the 2024 election, especially if Trump is the nominee. The state of New Mexico, I think Mark Ronchetti is going to run for New Mexico senator here again. He's just the perennial candidate of New Mexico, and he's going to lose by 6 points like he always does. So, yeah, it's just going to say the same margin like it did the last 2 times he ran here. All right. And I think we're in the most competitive states, honestly. Montana, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Ohio, and West Virginia. West Virginia, if it's a bad candidate, it's lean Republican, but honestly, even with this, the average candidate, that's likely Republican. So it only goes a solid Republican if Jim Justice runs for senator here. Then Joe Manchin's going to lose. And I think Joe Manchin, if he hears Jim Justice is running against him, he's going to instead retire and run for West Virginia governor. And honestly, I could see Joe Manchin actually flipping the governor's mansion blue because Jim Justice is term limited. So I think Justice has a 50-50 chance of running for Senate. If he does, it's solid Republican. If he doesn't, it's an average Republican. It's likely Republican. Just because there'd have to be an insane amount of ticket splitting for Joe Manchin to win. And he only barely won last time in the 2018 blue wave by 3 points. So if Biden wins nationwide by 5, it's still a Manchin loss by a likely margin. He would need something like Biden crushes the Republican candidate to have a chance here, just because he has to hope for a very Democratic-leaning electorate, and Democrats are a dying breed in West Virginia, so I really think Joe Manchin's the underdog here. And we have 5 more states left, the most competitive ones. So, we're going to start off with Wisconsin. I think Tammy Baldwin will probably win by a 4% margin against the best Republican candidate they could get. If it's just a weak Republican candidate, I could see the state going to a likely column, honestly. She's a popular senator, and she's definitely a lot more popular than Ron Johnson. So I think her incumbency advantage will hold in this state. So I'm putting as lean for now. The state of Nevada, honestly, I think Jackie Rosen's extremely favored here. They couldn't even knock off Catherine Cortez Masto in a Republican-leaning electorate in the 2022 Nevada elections because they flipped a governorship, but they couldn't flip the senator seat. Honestly, the electorate in 2024 is going to be a lot more Democratic, and there's going to be a lot more Democratic voter turnout, and I don't really see any Republican candidate beating her at this point. I think she'll win by 4 points against any of them. Okay, we have 3 more states remaining. Montana, Ohio, and Arizona. We're going to start with Montana. Thing with Montana is it's going to take an insane amount of ticket splitting for Jon Tester to win. Biden lost the state by 16. Steve Bullock lost the state by 10. Joe Biden will have to make a huge investment in this state just to keep up the good margins here. But I do think it's going to be a very competitive race. Matt Rosendale lost to Jon Tester before, and the other Republican, what's his name? I could figure it out. Let's see here. If we just go back through here. There we go. All right, we can figure out his name now. Let's see the candidates for the Republican primary. Ryan Zink. He only won that pretty much the... Let me get to the map. He only won his House seat by like 3 points. So if he's the candidate, I honestly think Jon Tester would have a chance at surviving here. And it looks like it's either going to be Rosendale or Zink. So if he lucks out and Zink takes the nominee, for the Republicans. I could see it being tilt Democratic, but I think Rosendale will take it, and I think Rosendale will narrowly knock off Tester in the 2024 Senate election in Montana so far. We're down to 2 more states, Arizona and Ohio. Ohio, I honestly think Sherrod Brown could pull it off. I think he has enough independent support and enough favorability among them, and it's pretty decent favorability rating as well. He's pretty popular in the state of Ohio. I think he could defeat the Republicans here, even with Biden losing by like 7 points. I think Brown will be able to win by an under 1% margin. And so far, I think the margin, if it's Trump v. Biden, it's going to be 7% in Ohio. And I think Biden should really put resources here in Ohio and try to make it bluer just to get that Senate seat out of there for Sherrod Brown. And we're down to the state of Arizona where you have Kyrsten Sinema, Ruben Gallego, and probably Andy Biggs as 3 big candidates, honestly. I think it's probably going to be them. And I think that Sinema might play a bit of a spoiler here for Democrats, but not so much. You really look at the approval rating of Sinema. Let me pull up that thing I had last video. Kyrsten Sinema, 18% favorability rating. Among Democrats, 5% favorable, 82% unfavorable. Independents, 25% favorable, 56% unfavorable. With Republicans, 25% favorable and 45% unfavorable. So among Republicans, they hate her less than independents and Democrats. There's a real argument made that maybe Sinema takes more votes away from the Republican side or just Republicans in general. But honestly, I think the hardcore Republicans still vote for their Senate candidate. And if they run Doug Ducey, he could easily win the state by a lean margin. He's a very moderate Republican. But I really think he'll have a tough time winning the primary here. But then again, Sinema might take away McCain Republicans away from Ruben Gallego, thus giving the Democrats less of an edge here. So it's like a double-edged sword. She'll take away some votes from the Republicans, some votes for the Democrats. Overall, it's still a very competitive race, and it's not fair to put it as a lean margin for either side here, but I'm going to be putting as a tilt margin in favor of the Democrats. Here's why. I think Gallego, especially if Biden wins Arizona by 3 to 4, that might be enough to just pull him over the margins here and just barely eke out a win against Andy Biggs or any of the Republicans they nominate. It has to be someone very far right, by the way. It has to be someone that dissatisfies moderate Republicans to vote for Sinema, just so he doesn't lose as much, just so the Republican candidate doesn't lead against Gallego. That's all that matters. But so far, it's a tilt Dem margin here. We'll see about the current polls. I might change this in the next prediction in January. I'll probably change multiple times, honestly. I don't know what's going on in Arizona, but this is my take on the state so far. So if we look at the math, this is what the Senate map looks like. 51 Republicans, 49 Democrats, and honestly, Republicans could win Arizona and Ohio, and Biden still comfortably wins re-election. So Democrats have a huge Senate map problem in the 2024 Senate elections. So that's my election prediction on the 2024 Senate map. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.